Alright guys, let's just get right into it. First we're going to start off talking about just the anatomy of the deer and all the vital organs. So when you look at the picture, you notice you have the brain, the arteries, the shoulder, the lungs, the heart, the liver, the stomach, the intestines, the scapula. The scapula and the shoulder are not vital organs. However, a lot of people prefer to shoot them there. Now, my preferred shots, and that's what this video is going to be about, is neither one of those. When we look at this, we notice our biggest target is, of course, the lungs and just that general area between the intestines and the shoulder. There's so much vital potential there. You have the heart and the lungs and the liver, which are all fairly equal as far as effective shots. So when the deer is turned to his left, facing you with his left side, your lungs are going to be your best target because they're big and they're right there on that edge. So when he's facing the other way, you have the heart. And of course, all this other stuff you don't really want to hit. So let's just go right into it, and we will talk about neck shots first. So with the neck shot, your vital options are arteries and spine. Now, the spine's going to be a little less likely to hit because it's up a little bit higher up, and you're going to have really good aim. So this is not going to be that advantageous for bow hunting and lower caliber rifles. Now, you have a lot of old school guys who this is the only shot they'll take is a neck shot. I mean, you hear it all the time, especially here in the South, because you have a lot of arteries in there. So worst case, they're going to bleed out. Now, there is a chance that you could pass by all those vital arteries and the spine and just like go through them. But likely, if you're using a big caliber, he's going to go ahead and fall down eventually. But what we look for is effective shots that are humane and effective. So you want them to drop as fast as possible with as little pain as possible, in an ideal world. So I would strongly encourage you to use the neck as a last option unless you're highly accurate. Especially with bow hunting, I would just avoid it altogether. Unless maybe, it's a 15-20 yard shot and it's a big buck with a big neck as a target. We'll go a little bit more in detail about that though. Let's go over to the next option, and that will be the headshot. Your only option here is to hit the brain, which is located kind of right under the horns, in front of the ear, and a little behind it. Depends what angle. This is going to be one of the most hard shots to hit consistently. Not saying you couldn't do it. I'm just saying you couldn't do it consistently on average. Especially with bigger calibers that, are going to be a little less consistent. There's not really much I can say about the brain here, other than, if you hit it, that's lights out. So if you're a very, very highly skilled marksman, then I'm not going to tell you not to do it. I'm just going to tell you I wouldn't recommend it for the average person. Now, we can go into the bow hunting aspect of it. The bow hunting side of it is definitely a no, because you got the skull there. If you're not pulling enough weight, it's definitely not going to make it through that bone. But yeah, there's really not much about this one. Like I said, if you're brave, you've been doing it for years and years, keep on doing it. But let's talk about the next one, the spine shot. You hear some people talk about this. It's another one that you hear in the old school sector. I hit them in the spine. That's all I do. Well, what a lot of people know is the spine is not up high. You see where the arrow was pointed. It's a little bit lower down, a little closer to the right above the shoulder in that area. And the thing is, with different deer, it's going to vary. So it's not a real consistent shot. If you just shoot him in the top of it. He may drop and then hop back up and start running. Or you could just seriously injure the deer. So we really don't want to do that. Now, you have a little more forgiveness if you're using some of the bigger calibers, 308, 30-06, and 7 mag, stuff like that. But, we don't want to take any chances on just wounding it. I mean, the biggest goal here is to find the deer and find it fast and find it dead. But yeah, this is another one of those. There's really not a lot to talk about, and it's definitely one that with bow hunting you don't want to really attempt because there's a lot of bone there and stuff like that. And again, if you're not pulling enough weight, it could very well just end up being a wasted shot, and it's a pretty hard one to hit, especially at distance. So the front shoulder, I'm gonna tell you, this is one I don't want you to hit at all. I don't want you to do this one. And a lot of people are going to be like, oh, no, that's the best option. Well, not really. And I'll tell you why. There's so much bone there, and this is coming from more of a bow hunter perspective. It's just a major no-no. There's too many bones there, strong bones. That front shoulder and, the scapula is up there in that area. And it's just one of them shots that can really wound a deer. You could end up just missing all the vitals, and you could end up tracking blood for hours and never find it. And it could potentially not even kill it. But yeah, there's just too many bones there. And I'm going to say don't take this shot, but you have a lot of old school guys that swear by it because with a higher caliber, there's going to be a lot of impact energy. So yes, a big caliber is probably going to go through, probably going to hit the heart, probably going to hit the lungs, and drop the deer. However, I don't like the idea of it, especially with bow hunting. It's just not an optimal shot, in my opinion. Okay, so the mid to rear end, this is another shot that I'm just going to say absolutely don't do it. I know a lot of people are going to probably agree with this one. But this is one of the most common ways to wound a deer and just permanently maim it. And then gut shots. So gut shots will kill a deer. They're not going to be as effective though. So you have to track it longer. It's going to be less blood, so it's going to be harder to track. It's going to taint some of the meat potentially, and it's just going to be messy. You don't want that. You don't want all the feces and all that stuff getting out. And then, of course, if you hit a deer in the butt, it's probably not going to kill it. It's just going to, like I said, wound it. It may walk around with a gimp leg the rest of its life. Or you could end up, it could bleed out over the course, of a day or so. And just, it just wouldn't be good. But yeah, I mean, that's probably enough of the shots that I don't like. And let's just go back into another shot. The best shot, guys. This is going to be your most optimal shot to take. This is with a bow, with a gun, with anything. And the deer in the picture is not in the perfect spot. He's a little bit drawn back. So when he's standing broadside, especially right side broadside, his heart's exposed right there behind the front shoulder. So the heart is your number one target. If you hit the heart, that's the main thing of the body. And if you hit that, it's gone. It's going to drop pretty instantly. Now, if you miss the heart, you're probably going to hit the lungs. If you miss the lungs somehow, you're probably going to hit the liver. If you miss the liver and that, there's a possibility. If you aim a little high by accident, then you're going to hit the spine. So there's 4 good options right here, especially if they're turned to you just right. And, talking about this, before anybody says it, I'm going to go ahead and address it. Yes, there's probably 10 other shots that you could take, depending on where the deer is standing. Sometimes they're quartering away from you. Sometimes they're looking dead at you. When they're facing away from you, directly in front, and all you can see is their head, and if you're a confident shot, especially with a gun, you could hit that neck shot. You could hit that base of the skull shot. But this video is about the most effective shot placement. So behind either shoulder, so even if he's turned to the left, then your lungs, there's just so much surface area that you can hit. Now the lungs are not as effective as the heart. It's a very close second. And the liver's a really good option, especially for bow hunting. This specific shot placement is going to be ideal. You know, you could sit here and say, well, the brain shot's more effective. Yes, but overall, your average hunter, especially bow hunters, that's not really an option with bow hunters, is a headshot. So, also that neck shot, you know, it's also a very effective shot, but there's a lot less vitals here. So that's why I say this is going to be your most ideal shot. And a lot of people talk about, you know, why not to hit the front shoulder. Well, here, let's look at it. We'll go back to this image, and you see the scapula right there, the shoulder, which they're calling it the shoulder, but we're going to call it the shoulder blade, the scapula, whatever you want to call it. And then you have that other little bone right there in that V. You see how it kind of makes a V of bone there. So if you're a little bit to the left, you're kind of in that guessing range. And you see there's almost like a little cavity there where you could miss everything. You could literally miss the bone, you could miss the artery, and you could miss the liver. You don't want to do that. Why not go with a shot that is going to be more 100%, or, you know, of course nothing's going to be 100%, but you know, 95% effective. And you can look back and kind of take a look at where the stomach is and where the intestines are. You know, if you hit that, it's going to be a mess. You don't want to do that. So I would never recommend like aiming for the liver specifically, because it's kind of tucked in behind the lungs a little bit with the heart. This is not an exact replica by no means, but the liver is a big organ, so you'll probably get a piece of it. You know, if you aim at the lungs right behind that front shoulder, you can very well get a piece of it. Going back up to the brain, you can tell it's a very small area. Their brains are not that big. So what would you rather shoot at?
I think I'd rather take the shot that has more bang for the buck. You know, no pun intended again. You know, looking at the brain, the neck, the spine, they're all good options. You know, if you've been doing it this way your whole life, you know, you may ask, why would I change it? Well, I'm not going to tell you to change it. I'm just trying to make a video bringing you a more visual representation of what's actually behind that brown fur. You know, I'm sure there's guys that are going to watch this who've been hunting for 20, 30, 40 years, and they're going to say, well, you know, I don't need all that information. What I'm doing is working, and it's working great. And hey, that's fine. That is completely fine. And again, it's going to vary from caliber to caliber, what kind of broadhead you're using. If you're bow hunting, maybe you're a crossbow guy, maybe you're a muzzleloader guy. There's so many different things out there, so many different variables with this. Maybe you're hunting long distance, short distance. You know, then we're gonna have to start looking into, you know, can my rifle even make it that far with that much velocity and that much energy? So, you know, this is not a be-all, end-all video by no means. It's just what I think is a pretty neat, in-depth look at what's going on when you shoot a deer in what spot. To touch on my preferred shot again, which would be what they call, a lot of people call it the boiler room. You may have heard that before. And there's just so much more vital stuff in that area. You know, you're going to get a lot better blood trail, which is very important with bow hunting, because bow hunting doesn't have that energy, you know, like a bullet wound does. You know, when a bullet hits, it hits it with a lot of just lots of energy. An arrow just isn't going to be able to do that, and it's also not going to be near as fast either. So you want to take the most effective shot, and that's what's puzzling to me. Some people will try to argue, especially the neck shot. That's one I feel like people will argue up and down about, because I've heard that like my whole life. Which, like I said earlier, it might be equally as effective if the accuracy's there and you know exactly where to put it. But it's going to vary from deer to deer again, because a doe's not going to have a big a neck as a buck might, and then you're going to have bigger bucks that might have a lot more meat and muscle in there. That's going to get in the way of where you're trying to shoot. Whereas, if you aim right there, close to that front shoulder, behind it, you're hitting something. You're hitting the lungs. You're hitting the heart. You're hitting the liver. So, guys, I hope this was a pretty helpful video, and hope you get something out of it. Please like and subscribe, and check back for some more content. Have a great day.